German Defense Minister Lambrecht visited Lithuania and said NATO must do more in the face of Putin's delusions of grandeur. She inaugurated a command center that will allow for the transfer of up to 5,000 troops. The NATO military alliance must do more to protect itself from Russia, German Defense Minister Christine Lambrecht said on Saturday. Lambrecht made the comments during a visit to Lithuania, where she met with German troops deployed there as part of a NATO mission as well as with her Lithuanian counterpart Arvydas Anušauskas. What did Lambrecht say? "One thing is certain, the current situation means we need to do more together," Lambrecht said. Lambrecht stressed that no one can know how far Putin's delusions of grandeur can go. The brutal Russian war of aggression in Ukraine is getting more and more brutal and unscrupulous. Russia's threat of nuclear weapons shows that Russian authorities have no scruples, she said. President Vladimir Putin and other Russian officials have on multiple occasions alluded to Moscow's nuclear capabilities when addressing the West on its role in supporting Ukraine. The United States has said that it sees no indication that Russia is preparing to use nuclear weapons. Germany's defense minister also reiterated Berlin's commitment to strengthening NATO's eastern flank. "We've heard Russia's threats to Lithuania, which was implementing European sanctions on the border with Kaliningrad. There are not the first threats, and we must take them seriously and be prepared," she said. "We stand by our allies." Lithuania borders the Russian exclave Kaliningrad as well as Moscow ally Belarus. NATO's presence in Lithuania. Germany deployed its first troops to Lithuania in 2017. Berlin agreed to ramp up its mission in Lithuania following Russia's invasion of Ukraine on February 24. On Friday, Lambrecht inaugurated a permanent German command center in Lithuania. She said the center would help move a NATO brigade, made up of 3,500 to 5,000 troops, to Lithuania in 10 days if needed. There are currently about 1,600 NATO soldiers stationed in Lithuania. The security of Lithuania is the security of Germany. It is this promise of common security that we are recommitting ourselves to today, Lambrecht said at a ceremony at Lithuania's Rukla military base. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky called on the international community to recognize Japanese claims to 4 disputed islands that Russia has controlled for more than half a century. Zelensky said in an address to the Ukrainian people on Friday that he had signed a decree recognizing the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Japan, including the Russian-held territories. The islands of Habamai, Shikotan, Kunashiri and Edarofu, referred to as the Northern Territories by Japan and the Southern Kurils by Russia, have historically been part of Japan, but Russia captured them in the final days of World War II in 1945. Japan contends that this was in violation of the neutrality pact that it and the Soviet Union signed earlier in the war. Japan and the Soviet Union were not at war for most of the conflict until the end, after Germany's defeat. The 1951 Treaty of San Francisco, which officially dismantled Japan's empire, stated that Japan should give up its right to the Kuril Islands, but it does not recognize the Soviet Union's control over them. Japan argues that it should control the 4 southernmost islands in the chain. Zelensky said Russia has no right to the territories, and the entire world knows this. He said the international community must deoccupy all lands that Russia has occupied and is trying to keep. With this war against Ukraine, against the international legal order, against our people, Russia has put itself in conditions, and it is now only a matter of time, of the real liberation of everything that once was seized and is now under the control of the Kremlin, he said. Zelensky's push comes as Ukraine has conducted a major counteroffensive to regain control of territory that Russia had taken earlier in the war. He said Ukrainian forces liberated almost 800 square kilometers of territory in the east and almost 30 settlements this week. Zelensky said Russia will show all potential aggressors that conducting an aggressive terrorist war in the present day is a way to weaken and destroy the one that starts it. Not only has Russia united the world against it and strengthened NATO, but it has also boosted the popularity and strength of Ukraine. When all is said and done, and God willing Ukraine wins this war, Ukraine will be a magnet for tourism, which of course is an amazing source of income for any country. Well-trained and experienced soldiers, aside from the US, not even the 2 other world powers have had much real World War experience. I imagine Ukraine may skyrocket into a world power itself and become yet another consequence of Putin's stupid decision to try to invade it. Putin's forces have looted nearly 40 museums in Ukraine, plundering thousands of priceless treasures, says Culture Minister. Ukraine's precious cultural history has fallen victim to Putin's 227-day-long invasion of Ukraine, the Culture Minister has told AP. Oleksandr Tkachenko alleged that Russian soldiers had looted thousands of artifacts from almost 40 Ukrainian museums in an interview with AP. One rare treasure to disappear was a 1,500-year-old golden tiara decorated with precious stones. It was one of the world's rarest and most valuable artifacts from the 5th century rule of Attila the Hun. The jewels were once housed in the Museum of Local History in Melitopol. Speaking to AP, one anonymous museum worker said that they worked hard to hide the tiara and hundreds of other valuable artifacts. However, Russian troops stormed the building and found the treasures after a rigorous search and stole them. The staff member said they had no idea where they took the loot of more than 1,700 artifacts. Other treasures pillaged by the Russian soldiers included 198 pieces of 2,400-year-old gold from the era of the Scythians, nomads who migrated from Central Asia. Culture Minister Tkachenko told AP Russian soldiers had carted off artifacts from almost 40 museums across the country. In Mariupol, another hoard was stolen from the museum where the Russians plundered 2,000 items. Russian soldiers, who finally captured the city after a ferocious siege that ended in May, made off with ancient religious icons, a unique Jewish Torah scroll, a 200-year-old Bible, valuable paintings by local artists, and more than 200 medals, Mariupol's exiled city council told AP. The attitude of Russians toward Ukrainian culture heritage is a war crime, Tkachenko told AP. He said the looting and destruction of cultural sites amounted to hundreds of millions of dollars. He noted that numerous churches, museums, and cultural sites have been damaged and despoiled in the Russian invasion. Ukraine's First Lady, Olena Zelenska, described these attacks on culture and history as a war against our identity when she visited a Ukrainian museum in New York when she visited the USA in September. Speaking about the lost artifacts, Oleksandr Simonenko, chief researcher at Ukraine's Institute of Archaeology, told AP, "These are ancient finds. These are works of art. They are priceless," and added, "If culture disappears, it is an irreparable disaster." Croatian MFEA on Twitter, "We strongly condemn the Russian attacks on civilians and civilian infrastructure in Zaporizhia. This is another violation of international humanitarian law and the perpetrators must be held accountable." The German government has prepared another package of assistance to Ukraine in the amount of 11 million euros. This will assist the Ukrainian military to prepare for winter. Spiegel shared this information with reference to its own sources. This regards a 100,000 units of winter uniforms and 100 heated team tents. The assistance package will also include electric generators, other equipment, and comprehensive field rations. In addition, it was previously reported that Denmark will transfer the winter uniform for the Ukrainian fighters, along with kits for the winter period, the defense forces of Ukraine transferred by Lithuania. This would include 25,000 kits. It was recently reported that Germany handed over 5 Bergpanzer II armored recovery vehicles to the Ukrainian military. This armored working vehicle is based on the Leopard 1 tank. Its functionality includes ensuring the mobility of armored troops, restoring vehicles damaged in battle, assisting in the installation and dismantling of engines and towers, and providing support in the repair shop.